Hello, my name is Edward Halitsky. I am the director and co-writer of the Brave Fighters film. Here's how the project came about. My father told me many anti-Nazi resistance fighters' stories near his hometown of Vinnitsa, Ukraine. Brazen rescue stories in nearby Hitler's headquarters. Some mysterious high-ranking German officer. Irina Svintitsky medic group. Bazaar Kalicha. As a young boy climbing inside the ruins of Wehrwolf headquarters. One day I told my father, "You know, Dad, you've told us these stories hundreds of times. Perhaps there are other people out there who'd love to hear all of them. How about I take a camcorder and make a small movie?" So my father and I sat down and we wrote a script. We then discovered other resistance stories in Vinnitsa, Ukraine. Unfortunately, we didn't have any outside financing, be it grants, loans, or inheritance. This film was completely self-financed project. We spent our hard-earned money to purchase camera equipment, lights, computers, and very expensive software packages. I asked my mom to be the host of the film and my father to be the guest. From my side, I did cinematography, light setup, film editing, and special effects. Three of us volunteered hundreds of hours to make this film possible. We dedicate this film to the brave anti-Nazi resistance fighters near Vinnitsa, Ukraine. Warning: this film may be inappropriate for young or sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Why did you decide to research anti-Nazi resistance in Vinnitsa?
I was born August 1943 near Hitler headquarters, Wehrwolf, in Ukraine. At that time, Hitler and German army command was there. My mother was Jewish. My father was high-ranking German officer. He actively helped anti-Nazi resistance. Regrettably, to this day, I don't know his name. The goal of this project is to show anti-Nazi resistance near Hitler Ukrainian headquarters. I knew many anti-Nazi resistance fighters. These were ordinary people. Jews, Ukrainian, Russian, Poles and Germans. They united together to fight against Nazi and save innocent life from death. These anti-Nazi resistance fighters operated under watchful eye of SS, Gestapo, Einsatzkommando, Abwehr and local traitors. And they succeeded, but to this day they were not publicly recognized.
I just read a book about communist resistance fighters in Ukraine. The authors describe them as killers, rapists, bandits. Why are you defending these criminals?
I also read this book in details. The author diligently studied communist archive in the time of the World War II. Many of so-called Soviet partisans indeed were criminals. But we are focusing on anti-Nazi resistance near Hitler headquarters. Communists did not like them, harshly was critical about them, and they named them. This is just a bunch of Ukrainian nationalists. They not listen to us and despise us. After World War II, Communist Authority gave anti-Nazi resistance two choices. Choice number one, get shipped immediately in Gulag as traitors. Number two, immediately sign up to Communist Partisan Vladimir Lenin Brigade. But I must say, the book authors did not specify any criminal acts or activities from these anti-Nazi resistance fighters.
Steve, how did you grow up?
I thought I was just ordinary Ukrainian boy. I had caring grandmother Katerina. I have a wonderful mother Olga, prominent pediatrician. I have father Konstantin, elite doctor. The whole Vinnitsa worshipped his golden hands. Regrettably, Konstantin was completely missing from my life. I grew up on Kotlяревsky Street with minimum paternal supervision. The guns from the World War II was everywhere, and we often played war games in ruins of the Hitler Wehrwolf headquarters. When I grew older, I became very disillusioned. From one side, Konstantin adored my younger sister. He also did her homework. From another side, Konstantin beat me brutally on a regular basis. He had enormous wealth and high-level connections, but Konstantin orchestrated many intrigues and tried to destroy me. On the street I received death threats, killing attempts, and many other bad things. I view each day as a miracle from God. Slowly, I uncovered the shocking truth about my background.
What did you find?
My grandfather was a prominent Polish aristocrat. He was murdered by communist death squads in Kiev in 1920. My mother and grandmother were Jewish. They were forced to conceal their Jewish identity. They endured communist death squads. They survived Ukraine's artificial hunger Golodomor. They lived under Nazi and communist evil regimes. My biological father was high-ranking German officer. He helped anti-Nazi resistance on several occasions. I was persecuted by communist authorities. Our entire family was forced to escape to the United States as political refugee. For 40 years now, my advanced scientific discovery has been suppressed.
switch to World War II. How did the war begin?
In 1939, Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler agreed to divide Europe. According to historian Viktor Suvorov, Stalin planned to conquer the whole Europe. The plan was called Thunderstorm. Stalin prepared the Red Army to strike Germans in July 1941. In May 1941, Stalin began to assemble Red Army troops near German and Soviet border. Hitler found out about this. He ordered German forces to attack Red Army on June 22, 1941. In the matter of days, German army obliterated Red Army. By August 41, German army encircled Kiev and were able to destroy 43 Red Army divisions. German army captured near 500,000 Red Army troops. 4,000 guns and mortars and 200 tanks. Red Army incurred 700,000 casualties. Then German forces occupied large portions of Ukraine, Belarus and Baltic states. The remaining Red Army troops escaped to neighboring towns and villages. One was my hometown Vinnitsa, which was 50 miles near German communist border.
Why was the German army focused on capturing Vinnitsa?
In late 1930, the communists created enormous Air Force base near Vinnitsa. This base had airfields and a huge set of underground bunkers and tunnels. The communists used 100,000 Gulag inmates as a slave labor. When the Air Force base was completed, communists killed all these Gulag inmates. German Army High Command decided to use this air base as a hub for Eastern Front.
Did the communists prepare for Nazi occupation of Kiev?
Communist secret police trained many saboteurs groups for urban guerrilla war. Ivan Kuder was appointed as the chief of saboteurs group. Some teams concealed various explosive materials inside targets, major apartments, administrative buildings, bridges, hotels, factories, communication centers, warehouses, Here is a partial list of explosives. Radio control bombs, stockpiles of flammable liquids, TNT and dynamites, aircraft bombs, ammunition, mortar and tank shells.
What happened when the German army entered Kiev?
In September 1941, the German army entered Kiev in triumphant mode. German troops settled throughout the city. Many high-rank officers were placed in the upscale downtown apartments. But after 5 days, communist secret police started total urban guerrilla war. Ivan Kuder and his saboteurs teams acted with deadly efficiency. They shot and killed many German troops and ordinary citizens at will. They detonated numerous bombs in downtown buildings and upscale apartments. They destroyed bridges, warehouses, and fuel depots. They demolished telecommunication and utility lines. The entire Kiev infrastructure was in ruins.
How did the Nazi react to communist urban guerrilla war in Kiev?
Nazi command orchestrated an atrocious retaliation against Jews and Kiev locals. On September 29 and 30, 1941, the SS, Gestapo, rounded up Kievan Jews. Later, Einsatz's command killed more than 35,000 Jews in Babi Yar ravines. 1 month later, Gestapo and SS rounded up 50,000 Jews in Vinnitsa. Once again, Einsatz's command killed them in Pyatnichany forest. During 3-year occupation, Einsatz's command killed nearly 200,000 Jews, Ukrainians, and POW near Kiev and Vinnitsa.
Please tell us more about this region.
Vinnitsa is the center of Ukraine, Podolia. Many believe this is a cradle of Aryan civilization. This area was known as one of Europe's most beautiful landscapes. North of Vinnitsa there is a magnificent pine forest near Strizhevka village. Pine trees are hundreds of feet tall. to the southwest flows beautiful Yuzhny Bug River. As a kid, my friends and I go there for fishing. Just across the river was a colorful meadow. Here's Nazi plan to build Hitler headquarters.
Can you describe the Eastern Front hub?
The German Army High Command established several critical command centers in Vinnitsa. Main Vinnitsa historical building was transformed to German use. Mozhaysky Mansion will serve as the Air Force Command Center. Noble Gathering Mansion will serve as a place for meetings and ballroom parties. Pirogov hospital staff was transferred to nearby Pirogov Medical Institute. Pirogov Medical Institute. All wounded German troops were treated in Pirogov Hospital by German doctors. Suddenly, Vinnitsa was flooded with elite German officers from various branches: Army, Air Force, SS, intelligence, counterintelligence, Gestapo, Abwehr.
Can you tell us more about Hitler's Ukrainian headquarters?
There were over a dozen Hitler headquarters all over Europe. In June 1942, the Germans concluded construction of Hitler headquarters Wehrwolf near Vinnitsa. It was located inside beautiful Kolomikhailovka pine forest. Headquarters consisted of wooden barracks, cottages, and underground bunkers. The entire complex was surrounded by barbed wire. Hitler residence included log cabin, underground bunker, and private yard. All ground defensive positions were interconnected by underground tunnels. The Wehrwolf was served by 3-hour daily flight Berlin-Wehrwolf. There was also a 30-hour train Berlin-Wehrwolf.
Tell us more about Nazi occupation of Vinnitsa.
The Nazis ruled the town with iron stick. SS, Gestapo, Abwehr were on 24/7 alert. They cleansed Vinnitsa from Jews, communists, and other undesirable elements. All sabotage activity was immediately crushed. There were frequent searches, beating, and killings. In the end of Nazi occupation, Einsatzkommando command killed nearly 200,000 people near Vinnitsa. Regrettably, I could not find any sign of memorial dedicated to these victims.
Did Nazi build major concentration and death camps in Ukraine?
No, the Nazi built all major death and concentration camps only in Poland and Germany.
Why did not Nazi construct major camps in Ukraine?
There was complete unrest all over Ukraine. The local populace was strongly against Nazis. They sabotaged many of the Nazi activities.
Who was overseeing Nazi occupation of Ukraine?
Before joining Nazi party, Erich Koch was ordinary train conductor. But now he was appointed as a Reichskommissar all over Ukraine. He was in charge of Gestapo and police forces. Koch had full authority from Baltic Sea to Black Sea. Millions of the Germans, Poles, Ukrainians, Belarusians were under his control. Koch's first action was to close local schools. The children do not need Ukrainian schools. They will be drilled by German masters. Koch was personally involved in persecution of the Jews, Ukrainians, and Poles. If I meet a noble Ukrainian, I will have him shot. Koch organized collection and transportation of the forced labor back to Reich.
How did Joseph Stalin view Koch?
Joseph Stalin appreciated Koch's extreme brutality. At the end of the war, Stalin personally lobbied for exclusion of Koch from Nuremberg tribunals. His plea was satisfied, and Koch was transferred to communist jurisdiction. Erich Koch lived comfortable in communist prison in Warsaw. Erich Koch died at the age of 90. There were rumors that the Koch was secret agent of communist secret police.
How did Vinnitsa citizens react to Nazi atrocities?
Hitler Wehrwolf headquarters was just a few miles away. The Vinnitsa was on high alert status. Town was overflowing with Nazi intelligence agents, spies, and provocateurs. Vinnitsa citizens refused to sit idly and watching as innocent people were slaughtered. They chose to fight. Many Poles, Ukrainian, Jews, and Russians self-organized into anti-Nazi resistance cells. January 1942, there were 18 anti-Nazi resistance cells in Vinnitsa. 1 year later, there were 38 groups.
How did the Vinnitsa Jews react to Nazi atrocities?
The Jewish armed resistance was severely harmed by GNAs, or Jews in name-only actions. Nevertheless, many Jews bravely fought with anti-Nazi resistance. Some of them organized Jewish anti-Nazi resistance teams. Let me name some heroes. David Ben Leib Modric, Ilinci district. Miriam Irkis, Trostenets district, died as hero. Israel Pecker, Trostenets district, died as hero. Olena Savranskaya, Trostenets district, died as hero.
How could resistance cells operate in this hostile environment?
I studied anti-Nazi resistance in Vinnitsa. Usually, German intelligence uncovered anti-Nazi resistance cells after several successful operations. But some anti-Nazi resistance cells were extremely successful during the entire period of Nazi occupation of Vinnitsa.
Steve, how could this be?
There were at least two factors: extremely intelligent and brave resistance cell commanders. Also, protection from the some German army high-level officers.
Do you imply that some high-ranking German officers undermined Hitler?
Yes, several historians, for example Richard J. Evans, claim many German high-ranking officers despise Hitler for several reasons: very low military rank and limited military experience, micromanagement of German army, poor decision which hurt the war efforts, Nazi genocide against innocent people. Some high-ranking German officers openly revolted against Hitler. Halder, Rommel, Guerilla.
Can you give us an example of successful resistance cell?
Let me give to you the members of resistance cell medic. Dr. Nikolai Mazanik, chief doctor of Pirogov Hospital. Irina Svintitsky, nurse of Pirogov Hospital. Dr. Belkania, chief doctor of the local hospital. Dr. Margulis of Pirogov Hospital. Nurse Olga Novoselinsky, my mother. After the war, the members of the group medic frequently visited our home.
What were the group's goals?
There were three primary goals: rescue wanted Jews, Ukrainians and Russian NPOWs, treat seriously wounded resistance fighters, help resistance cells with medical supplies.
Can you give us an example of their accomplishments?
Let me give you one example. The German intelligence is closing in on specific resistance fighter. The resistance commander requested the medic group help. Ms. Svintitsky collaborated with morgue and identification office clerk. The basic procedure was: morgue received fresh corpse with all legal documents. Mr. Svintitsky was given German ID or Ausweis of wanted person. Then Ms. Svintitsky and morgue representatives switch the document on the dead person and wanted person. Now, the wanted resistance fighter was officially dead. But in reality, this person was reincarnated with all legal documents. The Svintitsky claim they saved thousands of people.
How could the group be successful under Nazi hypnosis?
Ms. Svintitsky told me they were successful for the entire period of German occupation, 3 years. The group members were close friends. They knew each other for many years and trusted each other. They were protected by high-ranking German officers. One day, Ms. Svintitsky gave me a heavy binder. It contained detailed notes of rescue operation of medic group, stacks of letters of gratitude from saved persons. They were Jews, Ukrainians, Polish, Russians, officers, pilots, ordinary citizens.
Who was this high-ranking German officer?
And my mother was a beautiful young woman with wonderful voice. Germans ordered her to attend parties at noble gathering mansion. Somewhere between 1941 and 1943, my mother met this high-ranking German officer. One day, Ms. Svintitsky told me this German officer was in deep love with my mother. She served as a liaison between this officer and anti-Nazi resistance groups. He alerted them from incoming dangers. Without German officer protection, they will be finished immediately. But they functioned with impunity for 3 years.
How did the communists acknowledge the medic group?
The communists refused to publicly acknowledge the medic resistance group achievements. Only 65 years later, some of them were briefly mentioned in Pirogov Hospital webpage.
You mentioned two Vinnitsa medical facilities dedicated to Pirogov. Who was this Pirogov?
Dr. Nikolai Pirogov was born in 1810 in Moscow. He was a prominent Russian scientist, doctor, researcher, educator, member of the Russian Academy of Science. He is an icon of the Russian medical science. At 17, Pirogov completed the entire curriculum for Moscow University on medicine. Pirogov received a doctorate of philosophy from German University. Pirogov is the founder of the field surgery. He invented absolutely amazing method and technique for war surgery. Pirogov first used anesthesia during time of war. Pirogov created new plaster casts for fractured bones. Pirogov also invented new amputation methods. When Pirogov visited the battlefield, the war stopped to allow Pirogov safe passage. Pirogov also taught such issues to Germans in German military medical schools. Austrian, German, and French government awarded Pirogov with diamond-encrusted swords, awards, and many other valuable items. Regrettably, all those prizes were stolen during the Communist Revolution.
Steve, how did Pirogov view the doctor's role?
Pirogov was completely dedicated to his patients. His basic principle was doctor's foremost goal is to preserve patient health. The doctor must provide medical help free of charge for everyone. The state will pay doctor for his services. In 1861, Pirogov retired to his mansion, Vishenka, which is near Vinnitsa. Then he established free clinic. As a sign of respect to local population, Pirogov learned the Ukrainian language. His clinic was later expanded in the Pirogov Medical Hospital. But in 1881, Pirogov died under very suspicious circumstances. Later, Pirogov Medical Institute was constructed next door to Pirogov Hospital. My mother graduated from Pirogov Medical Institute. She said, entire medical staff revered Pirogov principles.
What happened with Pirogov hospital staff during Nazi occupation?
Pirogov medical staff, doctors, nurses served their patients during entire German occupation. Officially, they saved over 1,000 lives of Red Army soldiers, officers, and resistance fighters. But independent sources confirmed Pirogov medical staff, doctors and nurses saved lives at least 10,000 soldiers, officers, and resistance fighters.
So the doctors and nurses continue to treat people in Pirogov hospital?
No, the German transferred the entire Pirogov hospital staff into Pirogov Medical Institute, just across the street. Then German doctors occupied the buildings of Pirogov Hospital.
Wait a minute. You just said the medical institute was across the street of German-occupied Pirogov Hospital?
Yes, the Pirogov Medical Institute was indeed just across the street of Pirogov Hospital, and I could not find any mention of any terrorist act in Pirogov Medical Institute or in Pirogov Hospital.
Why would the German High Command allow this enormous security risk?
German Army High Command respected Pirogov legacy. They completely shut off access to Pirogov Hospital. But they also forbade SS, Gestapo, Abwehr enter the facility of Pirogov Medical Institute. The resistance command also respected Pirogov legacy.
I have an article. Not a single Jew was alive in Vinnitsa when Red Army liberated city.
This is not true. As I previously said, German Army High Command deeply respected Pirogov legacy. My mother told me many of her professors, nurses were Jewish. Not one from medical staff was executed. I am saddened to report, when Red Army stormed the city, they heavily bombarded the entire Vinnitsa. Several Pirogov Medical Institute and Pirogov hospital buildings were destroyed.
Steve, can you give an example of partisan attack near Hitler's headquarters?
There was labor camp on 36 Nekrasova Street in Vinnitsa. 30 inmates were making furniture for German High Command. Mr. Bushinsky was a camp technical director. One day, Mr. Bushinsky was informed. He says, soon will destroy the whole camp. Mr. Bushinsky was also provided with instruction for safe passage. The partisan assigned Boris Krishevo's unit to attack the camp and rescue the inmates. On the night of September 13, 1943, the partisan hit the camp in full force. They defeated the guards without spilling any blood. They safely transferred all inmates through German checkpoints.
Do you have any background information on this raid?
Yes, let me give you the timeline. Hitler was in Wehrwolf headquarters from August 27, 1943 to September 15, 1943. I was born on August 31st, 1943. Attack on labor camp occurred on September 13, 1943.
What was Hitler's reaction to this raid?
During the raid, Hitler was a few miles away in Wehrwolf's headquarters. 2 days later, Einsatz's command organized massive search and rounded up Vinnitsa residents, and they killed all those people on the intersection of the Bar Highway and Khmelnytsky Highway. The same day, Hitler hastily left Vinnitsa for good and never returned.
How did the communists acknowledge this heroic act?
Communists privately awarded medals to raid organizers, but they suppress all the details for raid for 65 years.
Why did the communists suppress this raid?
On my personal opinion, there were two main reasons. Zero participation from the communists, raid was organized and implemented by locals with some participation from German high-ranking officers.
What about the communist resistance in Vinnitsa?
The communists were completely focused on invading the Europe. They did not plan to fight a war in their own territory. Also, the locals were against the communists. They remember communist mass killing in 1920s and 1930s. They also remember Holodomor, artificial hunger, in 1930 and 1933. Many locals simply handed over communist sympathizers and fighters straight to Gestapo and SS. For example, there are two communist anti-Nazi resistance icons in Vinnitsa. Ivan Bev's and Lali Ratushная.
Did you have any communist fighters in your family?
Yes. My mother told me this story many times. Fyodor Halitsky, my official grandfather, was the prominent commander of the Soviet secret police. One day, in 1942, he was shopping on the local market Klitschko. Suddenly, an attractive woman in her 40s stopped him and asked,
Comrade Fyodor, do you remember me?
Fyodor calmly responded, "No, I never seen you before." Then Fyodor rushed back to his home and asked my mother, "Olga, in the market, I met prominent anti-communist leader. I chased her for Ukraine for several years. Now she recognized me on the market. Prepare my poison for me immediately. Gestapo will be here in a few minutes." My mother prepared the poison and Fyodor slowly drank it up. A few minutes later, Gestapo stormed the house, but Fyodor was already dead. My mother told me the story at least a dozen times. Every time, she was still shaking in horror.
Why Gestapo and SS did not kill your mother and stepfather?
I believe my German biological father protected all of them. He knew that the Germans were losing the war. Red Army and Communist secret police were approaching Vinnitsa. For some reason, my mother decided to stay in Vinnitsa. So, I was listed as son of Konstantin Halitsky, valuable informant of Communist secret police. Also, grandson of Fyodor Halitsky, the fallen Communist secret police hero. The lives of my mother and I were spared.
Have you tried to locate your biological German father?
Yes, back in the USSR, I asked my mother about it several times. But every time she was visibly shaken, we refused to talk about this. I then contacted people who knew my German biological father. But after our meetings, they committed suicide. I stopped risking more innocent lives.
How did the communists publicly recognize their icons?
In Vinnitsa, there are approximately 300 streets. Of those streets, 100 streets were named after communist commanders, communist functionaries, communist general, communist marshals.
did the communists reward their comrades?
Close to our home was world-known fruit arboretum. There were apples, fruits, berries, cherries, you name it. The arboretum saplings were distributed all over Ukraine. In 1955, the communists distributed this arboretum to their comrades. Each land lot was given to prominent communist functionaries, generals, marshals.
How did the communists recognize anti-Nazi resistance fighters?
Oh yes, the communists recognized anti-Nazi resistance fighters. 3 Vinnitsa Street were named in the honor of fallen anti-Nazi resistance fighters. I visited Dr. Mazanik and Nurse Vinnitsky home. They live in small apartment without any luxuries. Dr. Mazanik and Nurse Vinnitsky barely survived on their pensions, and they died in obscurity. We found that under Nazi occupation near Hitler headquarters, many Ukrainian, Jews, Russian and German united together to save innocent lives. They also forced Hitler to run out from Vinnitsa for good. We must never forget those brave fighters.
Dmitry Burchenko, commander of Resistance Fighters Brigade.
Yakov Melnik, commander of Resistance Fighters Brigade.
Nikolai Mazanik, chief doctor of Pirogov Hospital, commander of Medic Resistance Group in Vinnitsa.
Sergei Belkania, doctor, surgeon of local Vinnitsa hospital, team leader of Medic Resistance Group in Vinnitsa.
Olga Novoseletsky, nurse in Pirogov Medical Institute and Hospital, liaison between resistant groups and German High Command.
Irena Svintitsky, nurse in Pirogov Medical Institute and Hospital, team leader of Medic Resistance Group in Vinnitsa.
Vladimir Slusarenko, commander of Resistance Fighters in Zhmelinka region, chief coordinator of the raid on Vinnitsa concentration camp.
Boris Kryzheboy, commander of Resistance Fighters Special Unit Squad, organized and participated in several successful rescue operations.
Fren Bushinsky, technical director of Vinnitsa concentration camp, actively participated in concentration camp raid.
Vladimir Sobolev, liaison to resistance groups in Vinnitsa, died a hero death.
Klim Chernyavsky, commander of resistance fighters in town of Maidan Chepelsky.
Ivan Rybachenko, commander of resistance fighters in Dashev region.
Igor Rudoy, commander of resistance fighters in Gaisin region, died as hero.
Mikhail Vladimirov, deputy commander of Resistance Fighters Brigade.
Taras Shkrabotsky, commander of Resistance Fighter Squad in Mogilov-Podolsk region.
Yevgeny Posvetenko, commander of Resistance Fighter Squad, died as a hero.
Anton Didishvili, commander of Resistance Fighters Squad.
Ivan Ignashenko, commander of Resistance Fighter Squad.
Leonid Vedibeda, commander of Resistance Fighter Squad in Nemirov and Lityn areas, died as hero in a battle.
Mikhail Svechkolap, commander of Resistance Fighter Squad in Nemirov and Lityn areas, died as hero in a battle.
Peter Volynets, commander of the Resistance Squad in Kalinovka, 10 miles from Hitler's headquarters, died as hero, posthumously awarded as USSR hero.
Maria Turovskaya, resistance fighter in Kalinovka, 10 miles from Hitler headquarters, liaison between several resistance cells.
Peter Kugai, commander of the resistance squad in Kalinovka, 10 miles from Hitler's headquarters, died as a hero in battle.
Nikolai Sidorenko, commander of resistance squad in Kalinovka, 10 miles from Hitler headquarters, died as hero in a battle.
Ivan Bevs, head of the Communist Underground Center of Vinnitsa, posthumously awarded as USSR hero.
Lala Ratusnaya, resistance fighter in Vinnitsa, posthumously awarded as USSR hero.
Igor Belov, Chief of Staff of Resistance Fighters Brigade.
Andrei Kucheravenko, Chief of Intelligence of Resistance Fighters Brigade.
Ivan Korshun, Chief Scout of Resistance Fighters Brigade.
Yevgeny Volansky, Chief of Intelligence of Resistance Fighters Brigade.
Peter Kucheryavenko, Team Leader of Resistance in Chernovitsky region.
Sergei Levinets, Team Leader of Vinnitsa Military Resistance Group, died as a hero.
Andrei Maximenko, Demolition Man for Resistance Fighters Brigade.
Vasily Osikashvili, Demolition Man for Vinnitsa Military Resistance Group, died as a hero.
Andrei Kravchenko, coordinator of several resistance fighter squads activities.
Maria Barbashova, nurse of Resistance Fighters Brigade, critically wounded in battle, barely survived. At last minutes, saved by fellow resistance fighter.
Konstantin Grishin, resistance fighter in Zhmelinka region, died as a hero.
Viktor Kinyaev, resistance fighter in Zhmelinka region, died as a hero.
Anna Duchev, resistance fighter in Vinnitsa.
Yelena Topchieva, resistance fighter in Vinnitsa.
Galina Duranovskaya, radio liaison of Resistance Fighters Brigade.
Anastasia Semenova, radio liaison of Resistance Fighters Brigade.